Have you ever felt like your daughter erased you from her life the moment she turned 14? Sound familiar? If you found yourself wondering why her distance cuts so deep like a knife to the heart, you're not alone. You were once the center of her world. Now her bedroom door is always shut. She barely glances up from her phone when you speak. Your questions are met with one-word replies if she bothers to answer at all. You feel like a ghost in your own home, invisible, unacknowledged, erased. But that ache of being unseen isn't just about teenage attitude. It signals a profound emotional shift. One that both Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, and modern neuroscience can help illuminate. Freud once said, "We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love." And for mothers that love, especially for a teenage daughter, can often feel like a one-way street. Meanwhile, neuroscience reveals her brain is undergoing a powerful transformation, rewiring itself for independence in ways that can make you feel pushed aside. Today we're exploring why your daughter's teenage years leave you feeling invisible, what's happening inside her mind and yours, and how you can begin to heal the hurt without waiting for her to change. Let's uncover what Freud and science reveal about this tender, painful stage in your relationship. So why does your daughter's sudden distance as a teenager feel like such a personal blow? It's not just about silence, it's a deeper ache, like losing a piece of who you are. Sigmund Freud, the master of the unconscious, would say, "This pain points to a hidden need, one tied to your sense of self, or what he called the ego." In his book, The Interpretation of Dreams, Freud wrote, "The ego is not master in its own house," meaning your identity as a mom, once the center of your daughter's world, can crumble when she pulls away. That's not just rejection, it's a kind of ego loss, leaving you feeling empty, almost invisible. Neuroscience backs this up. Your daughter's brain at 14 is in overdrive with her prefrontal cortex rewiring for independence, and her amygdala fueling emotional storms. She's not pushing you away to hurt you. Her biology is driving her toward peers, new identities, and self-discovery. But for a mother, this shift can feel like being erased from the story you've spent years writing together. The real need beneath this pain isn't just to get her attention back. It's about rediscovering your own worth, separate from being her everything. You're not just mourning her distance, you're searching for a new way to feel seen, not just by her, but by yourself. Let's dive deeper into why that feeling of invisibility cuts so deeply when your daughter hits 14. Using Sigmund Freud's lens to unpack the emotional storm and neuroscience to ground it in biology. Freud, with his knack for peering into the unconscious, would say this isn't just about teenage attitude, it's a clash of hidden forces in both your mind and hers. He'd point to 3 key ideas to explain this mother-daughter tension: the loss of your ego's central role, an unconscious female-female competition, and the defense mechanisms that kick in to protect you from the pain. Let's break it down and see how science backs this up. First, there's the loss of your ego. Freud, in Civilization and Its Discontents, wrote, "The ego is not master in its own house." And for a mother, that's a gut punch. Your ego, your sense of self, has been built around being your daughter's everything, her guide, her safe space, her hero. But at 14, when she starts turning to friends or her phone instead of you, that role crumbles. It's like being the star of a family movie only to find the script's been rewritten and you're now a side character. Neuroscience explains why this happens. Your daughter's prefrontal cortex, the part of her brain that governs decision-making, is still developing, pushing her to seek independence and peer approval. Her brain is literally wired to prioritize new connections, leaving you feeling sidelined. This isn't her rejecting you. It's her biology reshaping her world, but it shakes your ego to its core. Next, Freud would point to something trickier, an unconscious competition between mother and daughter. In his new introductory lectures on psychoanalysis, he explored how women navigate their sense of femininity, and adolescence brings this into sharp focus. As your daughter blossoms into her own identity, maybe she's experimenting with makeup, asserting her opinions, or chasing her own dreams, she's unconsciously stepping into a space you once defined. It's not that she's trying to outshine you, but her newfound confidence can feel like a challenge to your own sense of womanhood. Ever catch yourself thinking, she's acting like she doesn't need me anymore? That's the sting of this subtle, unconscious rivalry. Neuroscience adds clarity. Hormonal shifts like estrogen surges amplify your daughter's drive to carve out her individuality, often through defiance or distance. It's not personal, but it can feel like a tug-of-war between two women finding their place. Finally, let's talk about how you cope with this pain through what Freud called defense mechanisms. In Beyond the Pleasure Principle, he described how the mind shields itself from emotional hurt. When your daughter shuts you out, you might deny the problem thinking, "Oh, it's just a phase, she'll come around." Or maybe you project your frustration blaming her friends or social media for her behavior. Some mothers withdraw, going silent to avoid conflict, while others snap back with criticism, hoping to regain control. These are all defenses, ways your unconscious tries to protect your ego from the pain of feeling invisible. Neuroscience tells us why these reactions stick. The stress of rejection lights up your amygdala, the brain's alarm system triggering fight or flight responses like anger or retreat. It's like your brain is saying, "Danger, protect yourself," but these defenses often deepen the rift. Picture a mother sitting at the dinner table asking her daughter about her day only to get a shrug and an eye roll. That silence stings, and she might bite her tongue to avoid a fight. Or maybe she snaps, "Why can't you just talk to me?" Both reactions, silence or anger, are defenses against the hurt of feeling unseen. Freud would say this moment isn't just about the present. It's tangled in unconscious memories of your own need to be valued, maybe even from your own childhood. Meanwhile, your daughter's brain is pushing her to define herself apart from you, setting the stage for this emotional standoff. Understanding these forces, your ego's loss, that subtle competition, and your defenses, helps explain why this stage feels so raw. But more importantly, it's the first step to healing. Now that we've seen how Freud's ideas and neuroscience explain that aching sense of invisibility, let's bring it home. How does this dynamic mirror what you're feeling as a mother? If your teenage daughter's distance makes your heart sink, you might be wondering, what happened to the little girl who needed me? Freud would say, you're not just missing her. It's your ego, that core sense of who you are, grappling with a shift. For years, you've been the lighthouse in her stormy world, guiding her through tantrums and triumphs. But now, at 14, she's sailing her own ship, and the spotlight's moved. That shift can feel like a personal loss, like you're no longer the star of her story. It's not that you've failed, it's that your role as mom is being rewritten, and your ego's struggling to catch up. Think about those moments when your daughter shuts you out. Maybe she rolls her eyes when you ask about her day, or she spends hours texting friends while barely acknowledging you. That silence stings, doesn't it? Freud would point out that her distance isn't just teenage attitude, it's her unconscious need to carve out her own identity, a process he linked to the Oedipus complex, where she's asserting herself as a young woman separate from you. Neuroscience chimes in here, her brain buzzing with hormonal changes, and a still developing prefrontal cortex is pushing her toward peers and independence. It's like her mind is a construction site, rebuilding her sense of self, and you're caught in the dust of that transformation. Her eye rolls or one-word answers aren't about rejecting you, they're her brain's way of saying, I'm figuring out who I am. But here's where it gets personal. That feeling of being invisible might stir up deeper questions about your own worth. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, if she doesn't need me, who am I? That's your ego talking, wrestling with the loss of being her everything. Or maybe you feel a flicker of irritation when she struts in with newfound confidence, her new style, her bold opinions. Freud would nudge you with a smile and say, that's the unconscious competition kicking in. It's not that you're jealous, but her stepping into her own femininity can quietly challenge your sense of self as a woman. And when the pain hits you, might lean on defenses, snapping at her attitude, or retreating into silence to avoid the hurt. Sound familiar? Neuroscience tells us those reactions come from your amygdala, your brain's alarm system firing off stress signals when you feel pushed away. Take a moment to reflect. When was the last time your daughter's distance made you question yourself? Maybe it was a slammed door after you offered advice, or the way she lights up with friends, but goes cold with you. Those moments aren't just about her. They're a mirror reflecting your own unconscious struggle to hold on to your role while letting her grow. Freud would say, you're not alone in this. It's a universal dance between mothers and daughters tangled in love, identity, and change. And the good news, understanding this mirror is the first step to healing not just your relationship with her, but with yourself. Why does the pain of feeling invisible keep looping like a record stuck on the same mournful note? You reach out to your teenage daughter hoping for a spark of connection. But her silence, eye rolls, or sharp words send you spiraling back to that familiar ache. You try again. Maybe you push harder, or maybe you pull back entirely, but the cycle repeats. Frustration, hurt, distance. It's exhausting, isn't it? Sigmund Freud, with his uncanny ability to probe the unconscious, would say this isn't just a string of bad moments. It's your mind and hers caught in deep-seated patterns, driven by hidden forces. Neuroscience doubles down, showing how your brain's stress circuits lock you into these reactions. Let's unpack this carefully using Freud's concepts of repetition, compulsion, and the superego, alongside insights from neuroscience to understand why this mother-daughter tension persists and how it keeps you both trapped. Let's start with Freud's idea of repetition compulsion, introduced in Beyond the Pleasure Principle. He argued that the unconscious often drives us to replay painful patterns even when they hurt because they're familiar. For a mother, this might look like chasing that old closeness you had with your daughter when she was younger. Imagine a mother sitting across from her teenage daughter at dinner, asking about her day, only to get a shrug or a curt fine. Instead of letting it go, she presses offering advice, asking more questions, hoping to rekindle the days when her daughter would spill every detail. Freud would say this is your unconscious clinging to the role of central mom, the one who was needed, adored the hero of her story. That role feels safe, like a well-worn path, even if it leads to disappointment. Why repeat something that hurts? Because your mind believes it's protecting your ego, your sense of self, by sticking to what it knows, even if it's a losing game. It's like trying to rebuild a sandcastle after every wave, not because it works, but because it's all you've ever built. But it's not just you. Your daughter's caught in her own unconscious loop. Freud suggested that adolescence revives early conflicts like those tied to the Oedipus complex, where a child navigates love and rivalry with their parents. At 14, your daughter's unconscious might be pushing her to assert her independence, to define herself apart from you, even if it means shutting you out. When she snaps or retreats to her room, it's not always about you. It's her mind wrestling with the need to be her own person while still tethered to the love and guilt of being your daughter. This tug of war keeps the cycle spinning. You reach out. She pulls back, and the distance grows. Now let's add the superego, Freud's term for that inner critic that holds you to impossible standards. In Civilization and Its Discontents, he described the superego as a voice shaped by society and family, often demanding perfection. For a mother, it might whisper, "You're supposed to be the perfect mom, always patient, always needed, always in control." When your daughter turns away, that voice can turn harsh, telling you you've failed if she doesn't open up or show gratitude. This guilt pushes you into a martyr role, where you sacrifice your own peace to fix the relationship. Maybe you keep offering help she doesn't want, or you bite your tongue to avoid conflict only to feel more invisible. Your superego traps you in this cycle of over-trying or withdrawing because it insists you should be able to make things right. Meanwhile, your daughter's superego might be at work too, piling on guilt for wanting space which she buries under defiance or silence. It's like you're both actors in a play reading from scripts you didn't write, each move deepening the rift. Neuroscience gives us another layer to understand this persistence. When your daughter's distance hits, say when she ignores your question or slams her door, your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, lights up. This triggers a flood of stress hormones like cortisol, pushing you into fight or flight mode. Maybe you fight by snapping. "Why can't you just talk to me?" Or maybe you flee, retreating into silence to avoid the pain. Either way, your brain's stress response reinforces these reactions, making them feel automatic. Over time, they become neural habits, like a well-trodden path in your brain. Your daughter's brain is doing something similar. Her amygdala, supercharged by teenage hormonal shifts like estrogen surges, makes her reactions, eye rolls, sharp words more intense and impulsive. Studies from journals like Nature Neuroscience show that adolescence heightens emotional reactivity, so her coldness isn't always about you. It's her brain on overdrive. But when your amygdala meets hers, it's like two storms colliding, amplifying every small conflict into a cycle of hurt. These biological and unconscious forces don't just keep you stuck, they feed off each other. Freud's repetition compulsion explains why you keep chasing connection in ways that don't work, like a mother who reorganizes her daughter's schedule, hoping it'll spark a bond, only to get pushback. Your superego's guilt makes you double down, thinking if I try harder, she'll come around. Meanwhile, neuroscience shows how stress hardwires these patterns. Each time you feel rejected, your brain's stress circuits fire, strengthening the neural pathways for criticism or withdrawal. Your daughter's brain does the same, locking her into defensive habits like shutting you out. It's like you're both caught in a dance where neither knows the steps, but you keep moving because it's all you've practiced. Have you noticed this cycle in your own life? Maybe you've tried to bridge the gap with your daughter, offering to help with homework, asking about her friends, only to hit a wall of silence or defiance. Each time it happens, it feels like a fresh wound. But Freud would say, you're replaying an old script driven by your unconscious need to stay central and your superego's demand to get it right. Neuroscience adds that your stressed-out brain is wiring these reactions deeper, like a groove in a record that keeps playing the same note. Your daughter's in her own loop, her brain pushing her toward independence, while her guilt pulls her back, making her lash out or withdraw. This cycle persists because it's familiar, even if it's painful, and both your minds, yours shaped by years of love and duty, hers by teenage growth, lean into what they know. But here's the light at the end of this tunnel. Seeing these patterns for what they are, Unconscious drives and biological reflexes is the first step to breaking free. You can't change your daughter's reactions overnight, but you can change how you respond to the pain. By understanding that your efforts to reconnect might be driven by an old need to be needed, and that her distance is partly her brain's wiring, you can start to step out of the cycle. It's not about giving up on her. It's about giving yourself permission to find a new way forward, one that doesn't depend on her opening that door. As Freud might say, with a wry chuckle, sometimes the hardest part of love is letting go of the script you've been handed. You've seen how your teenage daughter's distance can make you feel invisible, and how unconscious patterns like Freud's repetition compulsion or your superego's guilt keep you stuck in that pain. But here's the good news. You don't need her to open her bedroom door or say thanks, Mom, to start healing. Sigmund Freud believed that true change comes from bringing the unconscious into awareness, and neuroscience shows us practical ways to calm the storm inside. Today, we'll explore how you can heal that sense of invisibility on your own terms without waiting for your daughter's validation. It's about reclaiming your worth, not as her everything, but as a woman with your own light. Let's dive into some Freud-inspired strategies backed by science to help you find peace. Freud, in The Interpretation of Dreams, argued that self-awareness is the key to untangling unconscious conflicts. For a mother feeling invisible, this means looking inward to understand why her distance hurts so much. Start with self-reflection. Grab a journal and ask, why does her silence make me feel less? You might uncover that your ego is clinging to the role of needed mom, a role that defined you for years. By naming this need, you loosen its grip. Neuroscience supports this. Studies show journaling reduces stress by engaging your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that helps you process emotions calmly, quieting the amygdala's alarm bells. Try writing for 5 minutes about a moment when you felt unseen, maybe when your daughter brushed off your advice. What did that moment stir in you? Guilt loss. This simple act can help you see your pain clearly without needing her to fix it. Next, reframe your expectations. Freud would say your superego's demand to be the perfect mom sets you up for heartache, especially when your daughter's teenage brain is wired for independence. Neuroscience confirms her prefrontal cortex is still maturing, pushing her toward peers over parents. Instead of seeing her distance as rejection, view it as her growing into her own person. It's like watching a sapling stretch toward the sun. You're still the soil that nurtured her, even if she's not leaning on you right now. Try a mental shift when she shuts you out. Remind yourself, this is her brain doing its job, not a verdict on my worth. This reframing reduces the sting, helping you let go of the need for her gratitude. Setting boundaries is another powerful step. Freud's work on the ego suggests you can protect your sense of self by choosing how you respond, not reacting out of hurt. If your daughter snaps or ignores you, resist the urge to chase her approval or retreat into silence. Instead, model calm self-respect. Maybe say, "I'm here when you're ready to talk," and then give her space. Neuroscience backs this up. Mindfulness practices, like taking a few deep breaths before responding, lower cortisol levels, helping you stay grounded. Picture a mother who, instead of arguing when her daughter rolls her eyes, takes a breath and says, "I'll be in the living room if you need me." That small act of self-control not only preserves your peace, but shows your daughter what healthy boundaries look like. Finally, invest in yourself. Freud's idea of a balanced ego means valuing your own needs, not just your daughter's. Neuroscience shows that engaging in meaningful activities like hobbies or friendships boosts dopamine, countering the stress of feeling invisible. Rediscover something you love. Maybe it's painting, joining a book club, or even just taking a walk. When you nurture your own identity, you're less dependent on your daughter's validation. Imagine a mother who starts a yoga class and feels a spark of joy in her own strength. She's not just mom anymore, she's a woman with her own story. This shift doesn't just heal you, it models resilience for your daughter. You can't control her words or actions, but you can control your peace. By reflecting, reframing, setting boundaries, and investing in yourself, you're building a new kind of strength, one that doesn't need her applause to shine. As Freud might say with a wry smile, sometimes a closed door is just a door, not a judgment on your worth. Let's take that step toward healing, starting with you. You've learned how to ease the pain of feeling invisible, without waiting for your teenage daughter to change. But what comes next? It's time to reimagine your relationship, not as a one-way street where you give and she takes, but as a new kind of love, one rooted in self-compassion and mutual respect. Sigmund Freud would say this starts with balancing your ego, valuing yourself as more than just mom. Neuroscience adds that when you nurture your own emotional health, you model a strength that can transform your connection with your daughter. This isn't about forcing closeness. It's about loving yourself enough to let both of you grow. Freud in Civilization and Its Discontents wrote, "We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love." But he also believed a healthy ego finds balance between self and others. For years, your identity may have revolved around being your daughter's anchor, her guide through life's storms. Now, as she charts her own course, it's time to anchor yourself. This means rediscovering your own passions. Maybe it's painting, hiking, or reconnecting with friends. Picture a mother who picks up a long-forgotten hobby, like gardening, and finds joy in watching her own flowers bloom. That act of self-love isn't just for you. It shows your daughter what it means to thrive as an individual. Neuroscience backs this up. Engaging in meaningful activities boosts dopamine, lifting your mood and reducing the stress of feeling invisible. When you're grounded in your own worth, you're less likely to chase her approval or feel crushed by her distance. This new love also means meeting your daughter where she is not where you wish she'd be. Freud's work on the ego suggests you can choose connection over control, respecting her need for independence while staying open. Instead of pushing for deep talks, she's not ready for try small shared moments, maybe watching a show she likes, or texting a funny meme. Neuroscience shows that modeling calm, regulated emotions through your prefrontal cortex can encourage her to mirror that stability over time. Imagine a mother who, instead of arguing over a slammed door, says, "I'm here if you want to chat," and then goes for a walk feeling steady in herself. That openness creates space for a bond that respects both of you as individuals. This shift isn't easy, but it's freeing. You're not just her mom. You're a woman with your own dreams, worth, and strength. By loving yourself first, you invite a relationship where you both shine not as rivals or roles, but as two people growing together. As Freud might quip with a twinkle, sometimes love means letting go of the script you wrote for her and writing a new one for yourself. This is a love that includes you, your needs, your growth, a bond that doesn't demand her validation, but welcomes her when she's ready. We've journeyed through the pain of feeling invisible when your teenage daughter turns 14, uncovering why it hurts so much and how to heal. Freud showed us that this ache comes from a shaken ego, an unconscious tug-of-war between mother and daughter, and defenses like anger or silence that keep you stuck. Neuroscience revealed that her distance isn't rejection. Her brain is rewiring for independence driven by hormones and a developing prefrontal cortex. Together, these insights tell us that your feeling of invisibility is real, but it's not the end of your story. By reflecting on your own needs, reframing her growth, and setting boundaries, you can find peace without waiting for her to say, "I see you, Mom." Most importantly, you can rediscover your own light, building a love that includes both of you as individuals. In Civilization and Its Discontents, Freud wrote, "We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love, but that love doesn't have to leave you wounded. You're not invisible. You're a woman with strength, dreams, and worth ready to shine, whether your daughter notices or not." Neuroscience reminds us that nurturing your own joy through a hobby, a walk, or a moment of self-compassion can rewire your brain for resilience, just as hers is rewiring for growth. This is your invitation to step into a new kind of love, one where you're both free to be yourselves. So take a moment today. Reflect on one time you felt unseen by your daughter. What did it stir in you? Share your story in the comments below. We're all in this together. Or try journaling for a few minutes, asking, "What's one way I can love myself today?" As Freud might say with a knowing nod. Sometimes the best way to be seen is to see yourself first. Here's to healing, growing, and loving in a way that lifts you both.